Welcome to the recap. Today, we are diving into an incredibly wide-ranging conversation between our host and Dara Khosrowshahi, the CEO of Uber. We will be covering a massive amount of ground today, starting with India's booming mobility market and Dara's fascinating journey from revolutionary Iran to the top of the tech world. We will also explore the transition to AI in travel, the crucial difference between wartime and peacetime leadership, and the 20-year horizon for autonomous vehicles. Let us jump right in. The conversation kicks off with a look at the Indian market. The host asks Dara about Uber's primary competition there. While Ola used to be the main rival, Dara points out that a scrappy upstart named Rapido is now their toughest competitor. Rapido is using a simple, zero-commission subscription model for 2- and 3-wheelers, winning over drivers by offering higher pay. Dara admits Rapido is moving fast and innovating, but he makes it clear that Uber is ready to fight hard for its share of this massive mobility market. Shifting gears, the host asks Dara to reflect on his roots. Dara shares a deeply personal story about being born in Iran during the Shah's rapid industrialization. He explains how his family was deeply involved in building the country's pharmaceutical manufacturing base. However, the Shah modernized too fast and focused heavily on military power, leaving rural populations behind and setting the stage for the Islamic Revolution. Fleeing gunfire in their own backyard, Dara's family escaped to the USA when he was just 9 years old. Despite the trauma of leaving, Dara holds on to a deep spiritual connection to his homeland and views spirituality as a profound belief in the goodness of humanity.
I describe myself more as spiritual, but for me, my belief is in the good of humanity. There's a connection that we're establishing now, having this discussion. That to me is a spiritual connection.
Building on his early life in America, Dara talks about his path to becoming a CEO. After studying engineering, he landed a job in investment banking, where he worked closely with media legend Barry Diller. Dara was mesmerized by Barry's energy and, more importantly, his leadership style. He explains that as leaders climb the corporate ladder, the information they receive becomes highly curated and edited by their staff. Barry combated this by bypassing middle management and going straight to the source, a lesson Dara carries with him today, especially in the age of large language models, where finding the raw truth is absolutely critical.
And the biggest mistakes that I see with businesses is not usually errors of judgment, but you just didn't really know what was going on in the organization. The way you fight that is to create these random matches, to fight the organization's need to package everything for you.
That relentless curiosity led Dara and Barry to invest heavily in the transition from offline to online transactions. They focused on virtual goods with no shipping costs, which eventually led to the acquisition of Expedia. Dara stepped up to run the travel giant for 13 years. When the host asks how the travel industry will evolve next, Dara points straight to AI. He argues that the traditional search engine model of clicking through 10 blue links is completely outdated. In the near future, AI agents will collapse a 2-week travel planning process into a conversation that takes just minutes, handling both discovery and complex bookings. The discussion then moves to Dara's current domain at Uber. He describes his vision of Uber becoming an operating system for everyday life. From rides to food delivery to quick retail, the goal is to give consumers their time back. When the host brings up the fact that Uber sold its Indian food delivery business to Zomato, Dara provides a masterclass in corporate focus. He explains that Uber is not an investment holding company. His core competency is operating and scaling a global business, not trying to predict the stock market. For the young entrepreneurs listening, the host asks how to build a startup in a world dominated by massive tech giants. Dara's advice is surprisingly counterintuitive. He tells founders to completely ignore massive total addressable markets. Big markets attract massive companies with untouchable network effects. Instead, he advises founders to hunt for a tiny, unsexy niche where they can achieve strong unit economics and product-market fit, and then slowly expand into adjacent categories.
Specifically, you should go after the small TAMs. And the small opportunities where you can create a network effect without enormous investments. You just get one step to the next step to the next step. I don't believe in overthinking, Tam.
The conversation then turns to the burden of leadership. The host notes that in a world that naturally roots for the underdog, Uber is undeniably Goliath. Dara pushes back slightly, noting that internally, Uber must maintain the relentless, paranoid culture of an upstart. However, he admits that externally, they have to recognize their immense scale and the societal responsibility that comes with it. Dara opens up about his own leadership struggles, confessing that his natural default is to be a highly collaborative team player. But when the global pandemic hit and Uber's mobility business vanished overnight, he had to abruptly shift gears into wartime CEO mode.
As a leader, you have to go from peacetime collaboration mode to wartime-like. I am the general. I'm going to make a decision mode. While it was a really difficult time, to some extent that brought the team together. Looking toward the horizon, the host presses Dara on the future of autonomous vehicles. While airplanes and trains have been automated for decades, navigating chaotic city streets has proven to be a monumental challenge. Dara believes that autonomous cars must achieve superhuman levels of safety to be widely accepted. He explicitly praises Waymo's approach, which combines cameras, radar, and LiDAR, suggesting it is a much safer bet than relying purely on a camera-only system like Tesla. I personally believe that autonomous vehicles have to have superhuman levels of safety. I don't think it's good enough for them to be better than humans. They have to be multiple times better than humans. And Waymo has certainly proven that that's possible. But what happens to the millions of drivers who rely on Uber when the robots finally take the wheel? Dara points out that the transition will be gradual, likely taking up to 20 years for autonomous vehicles to become cheap enough to scale globally, especially in developing markets. While acknowledging the potential threat to gig workers, he remains optimistic that society will adapt by creating new, higher-value labor opportunities, just as it has during every major technological revolution in history. Finally, they touch on the explosion of electric vehicles and the concept of super apps. Dara is blown away by the blistering pace of Chinese EV manufacturers, attributing their dominance to a ruthless survival of the fittest domestic market. As for Uber becoming a super app, Dara is skeptical that the Asian super app model will work in the West instead. He envisions a deeply connected family of apps where mobility, grocery, and retail seamlessly cross-pollinate. The host wraps up by asking for one final piece of career advice. And Dara's response is simple but profound. Work for people who you love or respect. Make a difference. And try to work at a place that's making a difference. And the rest takes care of itself. And that is a wrap on this incredible conversation with Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi. From escaping a revolution to navigating a global pandemic and betting big on AI and autonomy, Dara's journey is a masterclass in resilience and scale. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next recap.